Right, challenge time again. Can you please all point in the direction of the world famous London Bridge? If you're pointing ahead of you, well done. Because you're wrong. That's Tower Bridge in front of you. You just sailed under London Bridge. It's actually quite a boring bridge to look at. Got a very interesting history though. We'll talk about that on the return. That's... In fact, let's not. Let's talk about it now, actually. There's been many London bridges over the years. The first London Bridge was built by the Romans around 50 AD, when this was the whole city of Londinium, a Roman city back then. You can still see the Victorian London Bridge. It was bought by a man named McCulloch and moved to Lake Havasu in Arizona. And he believed he was buying Tower Bridge up in front of us, so he was maybe a bit disappointed. Now on your right hand side you've got the HMS Belfast, built in 1938. She was the largest lightweight cruiser to serve during the Second World War. Arguably the most powerful. The guns at the front there can fire a distance of 14 miles. She weighs 11,500 tons. She took part in the D-Day landings, the Battle of North Cape, the Russian convoys. She helped to sink one of Hitler's favourite warships, the Scharnhorst. She went to fight in the Korean War before almost being scrapped in the 1970s. Luckily saved by the Imperial War Museum and serves as a floating museum today. Also built on the Harland and Wolff Docklands in Belfast, the same docks as the ill-fated RMS Titanic. Have you heard they're wanting to build a Titanic number 2? Yeah, because it went so well the first time round, didn't it? Should set sail in a couple of years, they're hoping. How bizarre. Over on the right you've got that round glass building. That is City Hall, often described as looking like a beehive, or an onion, or my favourite, Darth Vader's helmet. And that's where our Mayor Boris Johnson does, well, whatever Boris does. Who knows? Of course, he's only going to be our mayor until May. But now considering the possibility he might end up our next Prime Minister, there's a lot. If you don't know who Boris is, go type his name into YouTube. You'll have hours of fun. Right, you are about to sail underneath Tower Bridge. There is a legend about this bridge, an old sailor's legend. The legend states that as you sail underneath it, if you can get somebody to wave to you from the bridge, you get 5 years good luck. So, on the count of 3, you'll need to start waving and cheering like you've never waved and cheered before. 1, 2, 3... Yay! There you go, you just got yourselves 5 years good luck. How good is that? Now that is because that is the last bridge that sailors would have passed under in the Victorian and Edwardian times on their way out to sea, and sometimes they could be gone on their adventures for up to about 5 years, and so their loved ones and sweethearts would gather upon that bridge with a little tear rolling down one cheek, a wee hanky in the hand, and wave their loved ones and wish them luck. At one point, this was the busiest area of London, believe it or not, the Docklands. All your trading vessels would come down here and unload all their cargo into the warehouses either side of us. You've got Butler's Wharf over there on the right. Have a look up to the top left-hand corner of the building and you will see that the word spices up there still. All your spices and teas and coffees and dried fruits and dried flowers and silks and sugars and ivory, all of that unloaded into the warehouses down the stretch of river. Busiest docks in the world in 1914. Up to 50,000 ships at a time could come into this long stretch of river. Also the busiest docks still in Europe in 1945. Not an area to come for a midnight stroll, however. Back in those days, a lot of gang activity down here, smuggling, opium dens, and crime. In fact, over on your left, if you were to wander about 20 minutes in a straight direction, you would come to the area of Whitechapel. And it was in Whitechapel in 1888 that Jack the Ripper carried out his gruesome activities, becoming known as London's most famous serial killer. Now, at the time, some of the policemen working on the case actually considered the possibility that Jack could have been a sailor on these trading vessels, getting off down here, wandering up there, doing what he was doing, and then coming back down here and escaping on the boats. We'll never know the truth for sure. More famous theories have him as a doctor or a surgeon or a butcher. Now as we turn around here, you're going to get a fantastic photo opportunity of Tower Bridge. As you can feel, it is very rocky right now, so please do remain seated, but do not miss this photo opportunity of Tower Bridge. This is the best view of it in London, in my opinion. That is your Instagram moment of the day, your Snapchat moment of the day, Hashtag Tower Bridge. Hashtag not London Bridge. Hashtag Mark is the best tour guide in London. Tower Bridge is not as old as you might think. It's actually about 120 years old, built during the reign of Queen Victoria. Originally painted chocolate brown, as that was her favourite colour. Now she is a vascular bridge, which means that she splits down the centre and rises up to allow tall ships to sail through the middle. In 1952, a double-decker bus was crossing the bridge when it split and started to rise. The driver had to make a very quick decision as to what he was going to do. Basically, he did a Hollywood. He slammed his foot on the accelerator, he raced up one section of the opening bridge, he made the jump from one side to the other with nothing but a drop into the water underneath, and he successfully landed the bus on the other side, saving the lives of all the passengers on board. He got a medal for this, a £10 raise in his wages, and a slap from his wife for stupidity. You can visit the engine rooms in Tower Bridge. You can also go up to the pedestrian walkway up at the top. They eventually had to close that down to the public as it was becoming a frequented haunt by some unsavoury characters of the night. But you can go up there now, and they've got glass floors up there that you can walk across. In the engine rooms, they will show you how the bridge works, how it opens up to allow tall ships to sail through. Especially around summertime, we see the bridge opening fairly regularly. It's quite a beautiful sight to see, actually. Married up there as well. Should you wish to. As we go back under the bridge, if you look to your right hand side, you can see there's an archway in the bridge over there with steps coming down from it. That is Dead Man's Hole. In the Victorian age, bodies would wash up down here in the river and be taken up there into a working morgue to be identified. And of course, you've got the Tower of London on your right hand side just now, a building that you should all visit at some point. 900 years old, built during the reign of William the Conqueror, originally as a royal palace. The White Tower in the centre is the oldest part. Over the years, it's been a mint, an observatory, a lighthouse, a treasury, a zoo, and a prison. You can see the bricked up entry to Traitor's Gate down there at the waterfront. At one time, London's first one-way system. If you went through there, you probably were not coming back out, at least in one piece. However, did you know only 7 people were beheaded in the grounds of the tower itself? More people actually met their death by firing squad in there during the First and Second World Wars. If you were a mere commoner or a mere peasant, you were not deemed worthy enough for a private execution in the tower. You were actually taken out behind it and executed in front of a mocking, booing crowd as a form of public humiliation back out there on Tower Hill. If you were very rich or very important, though, you could get a private execution. 3 queens of England were beheaded in the tower. 2 of them were wives of Henry VIII, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard. And if anyone can tell me the name of the 3rd queen to be executed in there, as you leave the boat today, I will give you a prize. The prize is called a high five. Here's a clue, not Mary Queen of Scots. Somebody's already got it on the upper deck here. Not Mary Queen of Scots, so she was beheaded in Northumberland. So what was the name of the 3rd queen? Let me know on the way out. If your head was chopped off in those days, it'd be boiled in salt water, dipped in tar, shoved on a spike and placed on the medieval version of London Bridge, which we're coming back up to. First person to have that done to him was Sir William Wallace from Scotland. Two young princes infamously disappeared from the tower. Edward V, who was 12, and his brother Richard, who was 9. Now their disappearance happened right after their uncle, Richard III, had claimed they were illegitimate, which meant that Edward V had to give up the throne to his uncle. Did he get rid of his nephews to get rid of any competition? We'll never know for sure. 2 bodies were found in the tower of young children in the 1600s. Christopher Wren designed a beautiful urn for them, which was placed inside Westminster Abbey, and the bodies of these children were placed inside the urn, and we assume it's the bodies of the young princes who disappeared, although we'll never probably know for certain. Now that they found Richard II's body in that car park, they would like to actually do some DNA testing on any remains to clarify once and for all if that is the bodies of the children, but the Church of England and the Queen are not willing to have royal graves dug up, which is fair enough, I suppose. Now over on the left you've got the Shard of Glass, tallest building in Western Europe at 309 metres tall. You've got a 5-star Shangri-La hotel in there, restaurants, viewing galleries, and luxury apartments which you can buy if you've got the £40 million to spend on them. And if you've got the £40 million to spend on them, I think it is very, 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 very important that you should know I am currently free and single. Please do come and find me at the end of this tour. Now coming up on the right you've got a gap in between the buildings. If you look through it you will see a monument with a golden orb at the top. It's called Monument, also designed by Christopher Wren. And it is the monument to the Great Fire of London. It's 64 feet high and it marks 64 feet from where Pudding Lane is. Now on the night of the 2nd of September 1666, close to midnight, a bakery on Pudding Lane went up in flames. Due to the close proximity of the buildings, the fire started to spread uncontrollably all across the northern bank of the river. It set the medieval version of London Bridge on fire. Now the medieval version had so many archways on it, it would freeze the river over at winter time. We could have frost fires on the river. Also had houses on it, 6 or 7 stories high, and a church in the middle. So there was a real fear that the fire was going to destroy all the homes on the bridge and travel down to the southern side of the river as well. Luckily it didn't, but it did continue spreading all across the northern bank. Over a 3-day period, the fire burned uncontrollably, and by the time it was done, it had destroyed 80% of the medieval city of London. Out of the 80,000 people living in the city, 70,000 were made homeless, and 6 people lost their lives to the flames. It did help to stop the plague though, so you've always got to look on the bright side of life, don't you? Got Southwark Cathedral over there on the left, you can just see in between the gap of the buildings. Southwark Cathedral, you've got William Shakespeare's brother buried in there, Edmund Shakespeare. That blue building, Winchester Wharves, that marks where the Clink Jail used to be. They've still got a museum back there that you can go visit for the Clink Jail. It's now a Starbucks, the Clink Jail though. So if you ever go in there for a nice little vanilla spice latte, just think of all the misery and woe that used to happen in there before Starbucks took over. You've got Cannon Street Railway Bridge just in front of us, and it's absolutely hideous. I have really nothing else to say about it because it's the ugliest bridge I've ever seen in my life. A little piece of my soul dies every time I have to sail underneath it. I am going to warn you though, do not look to your right hand side. Please don't look to your right. In the windows up there, that is a spa, and there's sometimes naked people sitting in the windows, so please don't look to your right hand side. Absolutely everybody on this upper deck is looking to the right just now. Honest to goodness. You now have this beautiful bridge coming up in front of us though. This is Southwark Bridge. Lovely bridge. It's got a very sad nickname though. It's nicknamed the Lonely Bridge. Oh. That's because no main roads come to this bridge. It's very, very difficult to find. It's the least used bridge in London. So you see these people that are walking across it at the moment. They're lost. You've got the Financial Times building over there on the left. Building with the blacked out windows and the big FT on it. Right behind that in the car park is where the old Shakespeare Globe Theatre used to stand, the original one. Now I said I would talk to you more about the modern version, which is about to come back up on our left. It was the brainchild of a man named Sam Wanamaker, an actor and director from America, and he was very upset when he came to London that there wasn't more to commemorate William Shakespeare in this area where he would have lived and worked and spent some of the most important years of his life coming up with some of the greatest plays and sonnets we still have today. And so they rebuilt the Globe Theatre using the same methods and materials as the original. In fact, it's the only thatched roof that you will see in London. As thatched roofs were banned after the Great Fire. Just to add to the authenticity of it, it stands on an old bear fighting ring as well. Watching a Shakespeare performance in there is as close as you're going to get to seeing what one would have been performed like when Shakespeare was around. You can get tickets from as cheap as £5, and for £5 you stand in the courtyard like the peasants would have done in the olden days. And amongst the actors as they're performing. It's really, really fantastic. Performances will begin in there on Shakespeare's birthday in April the 23rd. Apparently he was born and died on the same day. The same date, not the same day, I should say. Any Harry Potter fans on board? Give me a big woo! Woo. Well, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you might recognise the bridge that we're coming up to, the Millennium Bridge. It was destroyed in the movie version of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince by the Death Eaters. It's called the Millennium Bridge, but it's got a nickname, the Wobbly Bridge. That's because it opened up in the year 2000, was open for a day and a half, and then they had to shut it down to fix it. It had developed a wobble. It was swaying from side to side, as much as 8 inches side to side, causing people walking across the bridge to lean over the edge and vomit into the river. Lovely image for you all. Now they asked the designer, Lorna Foster, why did you build a wobbly bridge? He said it's got nothing to do with me, nothing to do with my design. It's to do with the way people in London walk. How cheeky. If you look to your right just now, you've got St Paul's Cathedral, the only real full-length view you can see of it as you go into the bridge. Also, you'll notice that the City of London School for Boys, that's where Daniel Radcliffe and played Harry Potter went, by the way, it's got a glass staircase, so you can actually see through to St Paul's as well. St Paul's became the heart of London, to the point that during the Second World War, in the height of the Blitz, our Prime Minister Winston Churchill would get on the phone from the Cabinet war rooms to make sure that St Paul's was still standing. He truly believed that that building was bombed and destroyed. The morale of the people of Britain would be utterly crushed. Coming back up to Blackfriars Bridge. Oh, solar panels across the top of the railway bridge up there. Shall I reveal the mystery of the red columns in between the bridges? Well, the common story would have you believe it was the old steam railway line, the London to Chatham and Dover railway line running across the river. When we swapped from steam trains to diesel trains, they got rid of the bridge. It would not have supported the weight of the new diesel engines. However, the columns of the bridge were so deeply embedded in the mud that to get rid of them they would have had to use dynamite, which would have damaged the bridges either side. So instead they came up with the clever idea of just painting the columns bright red and hoping nobody would notice they were there. Not the true story though, I will tell you the true story. For all my Harry Potter fans on board, it's an invisible bridge, which the Hogwarts Express runs across to platform 9 3/4. So if you can see the Hogwarts Express today, well done! You are a wizard! Or you need help.